Hello friends, so I am back in the car with a vlog. Haven't done that in a while. I'm on my way back to Bloomington after spending a weekend at home, and today's video is going to be me ranking the American Horror Story seasons. I know this is probably like not that entertaining necessarily, especially if you don't watch American Horror Story, but I just kind of wanted a chill, laid-back video. I just finished American Horror Story Cult, and I had some thoughts, and I wanted to share them. On my way to get a pumpkin spice frappuccino first, though. So coming in at number 7 is Freak Show. It was really actually hard to rank this. I enjoyed Freak Show on the surface. I don't know if I just let the critics get into my head about how it was such a terrible season, and now I'm just like, I cannot objectively grade it. I mean, not that it's really supposed to be objective, but like, it's like I can't have my own opinion about it. I liked it on the surface, but like as far as American Horror Story, when they come out with really mature and psychological thrillers and stuff like Murder House and dark stuff like Asylum, it just was not up to par in my opinion. Like honestly, I can't even remember what happens, and that's what I find happening with a lot of the seasons that I didn't really like, is they didn't really leave a lasting impression on me. I really remember like liking Dandy like as a killer. I think that was something that happened, and obviously I think Sarah Paulson is a great actress, but I just remember like them faking the deaths of some characters, or maybe not, or like some just weird twisted stuff, and then Twisty, and then there was like a Halloween episode with like, which I know that they do like a Halloween episode quite a bit, but it was just so strange, and I don't really remember, like there was no central plot, and I think that was a lot of the critics' beef with American Horror Story Freak Show, was that there was no like central plot. Jessica Lange was great in it, and it sucks because like that was such, in my opinion, like she provided and gave so much to the show, just not a good season to end on, to like make and leave your mark on, you know? So that's my opinion on that. Alright ladies, we out here. So yeah, Freak Show. I mean, one of the only good things about it was that I think that was the first season where they started to tie seasons together. Like, was it Pepper? Wasn't she in? I don't even know. And maybe that's half my problem, is that they all have just kind of convoluted together. I mean, it's the same actors and actresses every season, basically. So I just kind of started to forget what happened. I mean, it spanned over like 8 years, right? Yeah, like season a year? Wow. But anyway, it was surface level good. Like, if it was an American Horror Story, I wouldn't have expected as much out of it. Does that make sense? Number 6 would have to be, ironically, the 6th season, Roanoke Nightmare. It wasn't that it was bad. Again, it was like surface level, it was fine, but American Horror Story has created such a name and such a lore for itself that I just kind of expected more. And that was actually, I watched it live. Well, I watched about half of it live because I still had cable then, and I remember watching the first episode and being like, what is this? They took away the intro, and it was like a show within a show, and I just didn't necessarily enjoy the platform. Like, you know, a show needs to evolve and it needs to change, but it wasn't necessarily for the better. And quite honestly, in my opinion, it was like Coven and Murder House had a baby. It's like they tried to take the two best seasons and put them, spoilers, and put them like together to make one thing. Like, it just felt like Murder House all over again, but in like a swamp, you know, with like an added twist that it was a TV show. And then at the end it was like another TV show, and it was just like too much. And like, I get the American Horror Story, you know, they like to have some campiness in there, but it just like it didn't really do it for me. Like, I like that they had kind of made it a little more scary. I think it's American Horror Story, and you know, they had done a lot of like psychological terror stuff, so I appreciated like the spooky elements of it. But overall, it just felt like it was pretty recycled material, in my opinion. Ghosts being attached to a place and terrorizing the family because they took the property, and there's bad spirits and stuff, and yeah, I don't know. Wasn't really a big fan. Coming in at number 5, we have, controversially, Asylum. Maybe it's because I watched Asylum when I was like 13 or 14, and it took me forever to get through it. I just didn't like it. There was just aliens, and it was really dark and dreary, and it just, like, I feel like Murder House was a really, like, mature, dark, you know, as compared to the other seasons that they've now made. But Asylum was still even, like, darker still. It was just drab, and it was just strange, and honestly, I don't even remember what happens in it. Like, I think the Bloody Face plotline might have done something for me, and I really liked Evan Peters as Kit, and the name game is iconic. But overall, like, as a season, it just didn't really do anything for me. I do think, like, it's something like maturity level, like, you know, maybe you have to have a certain kind of palette, you know, a certain kind of interest to like that kind of season. Especially being the second season, they were probably still figuring out where they wanted to go, and the performances of the actors overall was great. I just wasn't as into it, you know? I don't know. And they didn't really have a lot of, like, you know, they hadn't really quite started the lore of the story. I mean, I'm sure they probably had it in mind. It didn't catch me. It didn't catch my attention the way the other ones did. Like, I binge watched all the other seasons in, like, literally a matter of days. And Asylum took me, like, a good couple weeks. Where, like, I would stop literally in the middle of an episode and not come back to it for days. Like, it just didn't hold my attention like the others. And, like, maybe, you know, I was just not the audience for it. But yeah, I just wasn't a big fan of Asylum. But I think it's a really, like, love it or hate it season. Like, I feel like you don't catch many people putting Asylum in the middle of their lists. You know, it's either like, oh, it's the best season of all time, or like, it's not that good. So, you know, I don't think my opinion is necessarily controversial, but the season itself is, like, controversial because, like, you have, like, a split fan base. So I don't know. Coming in at number 4 is Hotel. I remember really liking Hotel when it was on. It seemed to have a plot line. I don't remember it now. I remember talking to someone and they were like, Hotel did not have a plot, so I don't know. Maybe I was just really enthralled by Lady Gaga's performance. It was really good. I remember liking, like, what it was, like, the vampire children thing that was going on. Hotel was just alright, you know? I think that's why it kind of hits midway for me. Alright. Honestly, like, the last few seasons in my list all just kind of convolute together, because it's like, they're bad, and they're kind of bad for, like, kind of the same reasons, just, like, a lack of a plot, and just, like, on the surface, they would be good with any other name other than American Horror Story. Like, if they weren't American Horror Stories, then they wouldn't be as bad. Does that make sense? Like, you know, I expected so much from the first few seasons of American Horror Story that when we started going into this weird area, then it was just kind of, like, not as good, you know? And I think that's the problem. Now, number 3. Here's where, like, my top 3, I feel like I can start saying some things. I can start talking about it more. Okay, we're on I-69 now, so we can really talk, because I don't have to necessarily focus on where I'm going. So, number 3.
Continue straight for 30 minutes to Indiana 37 North Bloomington.
Thank you. So, number 3 would have to be Cult. And maybe that's because I just watched it and it's very fresh and all of that good stuff. But I really do think that, you know, as compared to the other seasons where I said, oh, because it's American Horror Story, it's suffering because of the way it's presenting itself, I think that Cult benefits from being American Horror Story. Maybe that's not necessarily a good thing, because it's kind of like not necessarily relying on the title. I don't know, let me just say it. I think that Cult was timely. I think it was well done. And I think it gets away with its satire because it is American Horror Story, okay? I think if it was its own thing and it didn't have a good foundation for being a solid and well-done show, then it wouldn't be as well respected as it was, obviously, like I said. So I think it benefits from being an American Horror Story season. It's a series, part of the series. That doesn't mean that it is not without critiques, because it definitely is. I will say, like, it is satire. People who don't like the season, I don't think understand satire. And that's not be like, oh, you have to be, like, intelligent to understand. Like, it's not some Rick and Morty level shit, okay? It's not like that. What I really liked about Cult was that it wasn't just parodying one side, because it was based around the election. That was, like, the big, like, turning starter point that set the season in motion. It set the season in motion. And it parodied both liberals and conservatives. And that's what I liked about it, because it honestly was kind of showing them coming together in a really sick and twisted and fucked up cultish way. But within the cult were liberals and conservatives who were being manipulated by a bigger twisted picture. And so in a sense they were, like, you know, kind of coming together, but it was making America really, you know, messed up. And it was just showing that everybody is messed up, everybody is twisted, everybody has their own agendas. And I liked that. I liked that, you know, it shows that there were extremes on both sides. There are extreme liberals and there are extreme conservatives. And a lot of people thought that sometimes it was just too in your face. Like, I remember in the season finale, Sarah Paulson's character talks about, like, being a snowflake in a blizzard and, like, all this stuff. And people thought that was just ridiculous. And it's satire. Like, it is satire. It's supposed to be cringy. It's supposed to be ridiculous. It's very self-aware. And I think that's what's interesting, is that people who enjoy the show are not necessarily liberals or conservatives or whatever, but they're self-aware that America is screwed up and their political party is probably screwed up and everybody's screwed up. And it's just, people necessarily might not have liked Cult because it could happen. It really could happen. I mean, there are cults. That's, like, one of the things that it touched on was cults throughout history. And, like, America is so divided, and, like, this is not going to be a political video, but, I mean, you kind of have to touch on that because Cult is a political season. But that's what I liked about it. And stepping away from that side of it, a critique I had about Cult was the timeline was kind of difficult to follow. There were a lot of flashbacks, like, day before the election, day after the election, 2 years before the election, 2 weeks after the election, and it was kind of showing, you know, how everyone got involved in the cult and what drove them to be in the cult. But along the way, it just kind of got a little mushed in my brain, and, like, I'm still kind of confused, to be quite honest. Like, one of the big things is, like, the clown murderers, and I'm just confused, like, were they clowns to kind of tie in Twisty, because Twisty from Freak Show was kind of in the season a little bit, or was it clowns to fuck with Sarah Paulson's character, to mess with Sarah Paulson's character because she had a fear of clowns? Did the whole cult and all the killings just do that to mess with her? Because spoiler, Allie, that's her name, Allie, because spoiler, her wife is just really trying to get in her head, and so I guess I'm just kind of confused as to why clowns. Was it to tie in, or was it to mess with Allie? I don't know. But the acting was honestly phenomenal. Evan Peters was so great in it. Like, he's always amazing. I like to think about, side note, if you watch my roommate tag with Danny, I talk about how I met Evan Peters, and I just think about, like, I think I met him around the time that Coven was filming. And I just think about, like, from then on, like, he has my image somewhere in his subconscious. So he could be thinking about me during one of those scenes that I'm watching. Obviously, that's, like, kind of a hyperbole exaggeration, but I just think about that sometimes. Anyway, that was kind of a side note. But Evan Peters is always fantastic. Sarah Paulson is always fantastic. I really love the inclusion. I don't know her name. I should have looked it up. I'll probably put it in here. But Ivy, her acting, I really liked her as a character. I hated her then halfway through, but she kind of brought it around, and the character development of Ivy and Allie was a really interesting, like, dynamic to watch. Billie Lourd, is that her name? I really like her. She's a great actress. I like what she contributes to the show, but, like, is she incapable of playing anything other than an emotionless, kind of with the dark side, young adult woman? Like, and maybe that's not necessarily a critique of her acting so much as the characters that, you know, the producers create for her, but I saw her in Scream Queens, and that was like her thing, was that she was really emotionless and, you know, all that kind of thing, and I felt like I was watching the same character in Cult. I wish Emma Roberts would have had a bit more of something to provide, but I liked the inclusion of new actors and actresses, because I mean, you gotta love the classics like Sarah Paulson and Evan Peters and all of that. It's great, it's wonderful, they come back all the time for a reason, but it is nice to see some new faces because they do contribute quite a bit. But yeah, I liked Cult. I remembered what happened. It made me, I binge watched it in 2 days. It kept me on the edge of my seat. It was relevant, it was, you know, timely. So yeah, I really liked it. I was a little weary of it in the first episode and the intro. I was a little weary of it, but it was really good, and I think it's a good, entertaining, satirical commentary, and that is what we need, honestly, because I think it does kind of like bring us together and like realize that like everybody's pretty messed up, and we can just enjoy some TV about it. It's really great. My number 2 spot goes to Coven. Okay, this was not expected by my previous mention of Coven and Murder House. If you cannot guess the top 2, Coven was just so good. Okay, it had everything I love about American Horror Story. It had some psychological stuff in there. It had gore and horror. It had powerful women. It had backstabbing. It had twists and turns and great acting. Thaisa, I think that's her name. I'm really sorry. I'll put like a pronunciation guide in here if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm really excited to see her in Apocalypse and to see those revival of the characters. But I have always loved like the occult, like supernatural, witches and things like that. And so to see that played out and just the plot line and all of these girls' backstories was just like, it was so phenomenal. And in New Orleans, whatever, it was just a really good setting for the story, and it felt like not necessarily that it had one cohesive plot, because, you know, they went from putting Kyle back together and finding out who the Supreme was, and all of that good stuff, but all of it developed the characters over time, created some really great new quotes, such as, you know, on Wednesdays we wear black, and surprise bitch, I bet you've seen it last week, like, and Jessica Lange was obviously phenomenal in it, like, everything about that season, just literally living, like, wig, like, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't, you know, whatever, okay, it's getting dark in here, sorry. So, yeah, Coven was just honestly so phenomenal, and I love seeing a cast of women. Like, I'm sorry that I am a feminist that loves seeing, like, powerful women doing, like, amazing, dangerous things. On to number 1. I feel like this is a pretty normal opinion to have, but my favorite season of all time is Murder House. I have watched it all the way through, like, 3 or 4 times. It's so great. It is just, like, all of the greatness of American Horror Story's energy concentrated into one season, and it was just so good. You know, you had all the backstories of the people who were remaining in the house, while also driving a pretty cohesive plot as far as American Horror Story standards go. You know, with the troubled marriage and Violet and Tate and the pregnancy and all of that stuff. It just kept progressing throughout the season, and I think that it was honestly the most cohesive, put together season of all time, which is maybe why I think it is so great. And it also just like developed my love for American Horror Story, and especially Evan Peters. Like, he just touched me right there, right in the feels. Like, I honestly think that Murder House stands alone as one of the greatest seasons, just because it is the original. It set the foundation and the tone for all of the other seasons, and, you know, it introduced us to so many great actors and actresses, and, like, I can't even fully explain why I love Murder House so much. It's just, like, and maybe it's me, I don't know, I also think it's interesting that, like, you know, they've started to connect all the seasons at this point, and they had to have had some of that stuff in mind, you know, when they made the very first season. And that's so interesting because, you know, for the first 3 seasons, there really was no connection, but they were making them behind the scenes. And I just, you know, thought it was going to be like kind of an anthology series, and I was okay with that. For once, I was okay with that. One of my biggest beefs with things like American Horror Story was that I like continuations. I like to know what happens afterwards, after, you know, the season's end. And I had a pretty big beef for a while with American Horror Story that I didn't get to know what happened to those characters afterwards. So it's exciting to see that they're connecting, especially with Apocalypse. They are literally bringing back, like, it's not even like subtle. It's they're bringing back Coven and Murder House, and that's like literally plus a new set of characters. And so coming off my 3rd favorite season while adding in my 1st and 2nd season, I think that Apocalypse is going to be really great, and it's already going on right now. It'll probably have been on for well over a month by the time this video even goes up. So hopefully I'm correct, and hopefully whenever I watch it, it'll be great. But yeah, those are my, that's my American Horror Story seasons ranked / chit chat drive with me, I guess.